Imagine this. You've just woken up, but something feels off. You've slept well. The sun is shining. Your basic needs are met. Yet there's a strange heaviness in your chest. Not fear, not sadness, just a quiet, dull weight. Like something is missing, like something inside you is unfinished, unresolved. You open your phone, another notification, another email, another headline, screaming about something terrible or exciting, but none of it moves you. You scroll, you tap, you close it. What now? You go through the motions. You drink your coffee. You go to work. You talk to people. You smile, but deep down, a question is forming. A question you don't want to ask, because you're afraid of the answer. What's the point of all this? That's the thought you bury, the one you distract yourself from. You tell yourself you're just tired. You need a vacation, maybe a new job, or a relationship, or a fresh start. Deep down, there's a voice you can't ignore, a voice that whispers, even if I had all those things, would I actually feel different? Arthur Schopenhauer didn't ignore that voice. He faced it, head on, and what he discovered still disturbs and frees those who are brave enough to listen. He believed that suffering isn't just part of life, it is life, that the very act of desiring, of wanting anything, creates pain. You suffer because you want, and the moment you get what you want something else. It never ends. That sounds dark, doesn't it? But maybe it's not just philosophy. Maybe it's your life. Maybe you felt that endless chase. The job you once dreamed of is now boring. The relationship you longed for is now a routine. The goals you thought would complete you only made room for more goals. Why does everything lose its meaning the moment we get it? That's the paradox. You work so hard to feel fulfilled, but the more you chase pleasure, the emptier you feel. You distract yourself from pain, but it keeps coming back in different shapes. You try to control life, but you end up feeling more out of control. You tell yourself you're supposed to be happy, but are you? Or are you just managing your dissatisfaction a little better than yesterday? And if that's true, if existence naturally creates discomfort, then what are we even trying to fix? Schopenhauer called this the will to life, a force inside every human that constantly wants more. More pleasure, more success, more meaning, but it's never satisfied. It keeps you chasing, always thinking the next thing will finally be it. But what if nothing is it? What if peace isn't found in getting more, but in seeing the truth about this endless wanting? Have you ever wondered why happiness feels so temporary? Why contentment never seems to last? Why does silence feel uncomfortable, even painful? Why are we more afraid of boredom than of burnout? We live in a world obsessed with escaping discomfort. Everything is about stimulation, noise, achievement, goals, progress. But maybe that's the very thing keeping us from peace. What if your suffering isn't a flaw, but a signal that something deeper is being ignored? Schopenhauer didn't give people false hope. He didn't tell them to just think positive or focus on gratitude. He said, look at the truth. Face it directly. Only then can you stop being a slave to it. And here's the most disturbing part. Maybe the pain you feel, the boredom, the dissatisfaction, the restlessness, isn't a personal failure. Maybe it's the natural result of being alive, of having a mind that constantly wants, and a world that constantly tempts. But instead of facing that, most people numb it. They keep moving, keep scrolling, keep hoping the next moment will finally bring peace. It never does. So here's the real question. If chasing desire leads to suffering, and resisting desire leaves you empty, what is the way out? Is there a cure for this quiet, constant pain? Schopenhauer believed there is. It's not what you think. It's not success, not love, not even hope. It's something much harder, much deeper, and much more freeing. But before we get to his answer, we need to understand the hidden engine behind all this, the psychological and philosophical force that keeps suffering alive. without us even realizing it. Because until you see it clearly, you'll keep living on autopilot, distracted, restless, waiting for a life that never fully arrives. So let's go deeper. Let's find the source. You've probably heard it your entire life. Follow your dreams. Chase what makes you happy. Create the life you want. It sounds beautiful, empowering. But what if this advice is part of the problem? What if the more we focus on desire, on chasing, building, achieving, the more we fuel the very pain we're trying to escape? Schopenhauer believed that this endless pursuit of desire is not just exhausting, it's destructive. It's the root of human suffering. In his view, our existence is shaped by the will, a blind, unconscious drive inside all living beings. This will isn't rational. It doesn't care about your happiness. It simply wants. And once it gets what it wants again. Think about that. How many times have you thought, if I just get this one thing, I'll finally be okay? But then you got it, and nothing really changed. The satisfaction faded. The joy became normal. The problem returned, just with a different face. Carl Jung understood this too. He believed that most people live out patterns without knowing it. He called this the unconscious, a part of the mind that quietly controls your emotions, thoughts, and choices. And one of the strongest forces in that unconscious, repressed desire. Desire you're not aware of. Desires shaped by trauma, culture, fear. And these desires don't just sit there. They shape your entire identity. They become your goals, your fears, your sense of self-worth. Have you ever wanted something and then asked yourself why you wanted it and had no real answer? Have you ever chased approval from people you didn't even respect? Why? Because the human mind doesn't just want pleasure, it wants meaning. In a world that confuses the two, people end up addicted to stimulation, but starving for depth. This is where Aldous Huxley's insight comes in. In Brave New World, he warned of a society that no longer needs to be controlled by fear or violence, because it's controlled by pleasure. People are sedated by comfort, distracted by entertainment, addicted to distraction. They're not enslaved by pain. They're enslaved by desire. Desire that keeps them docile. Desire that keeps them from asking the one question that could wake them up. Is this all there is? Jean-Paul Sartre took it even further. He believed that humans are condemned to be free. We are forced to create meaning in a universe that offers none. That freedom is terrifying. So most people run from it. They hide in jobs, relationships, routines, anything to avoid facing the empty space inside. Schopenhauer saw this too. But instead of running from the void, he asked us to face it. And here's where the hidden problem begins to take shape. We suffer because we believe life owes us pleasure. We suffer because we confuse comfort with purpose. We suffer because we think desire will complete us when it only consumes us. And the world doesn't help. It sells us a fantasy that happiness is just one product, one achievement, one breakthrough away. But the truth is more brutal and more liberating. Nothing you gain will ever satisfy the will. Not fully, not for long. Because the will isn't meant to be satisfied. It's meant to survive, to persist. And that's what it does, even if it drags you into anxiety, depression, or burnout. This is why so many people who have it all still feel empty. It's not that they're broken. It's that they were lied to. They were told that fulfillment comes from more. But Schopenhauer says more is the problem. So what's the solution? To want less? Not exactly. Because even wanting less is still a form of wanting. Still a trap. This is where the teachings start to twist. They don't give you clear steps or motivational slogans. They ask you to look deeper, to ask yourself, who would I be if I stopped chasing? What would be left if you stripped away all the striving? Would you still be someone? Or have you become nothing more than the things you want? Schopenhauer saw that most people define themselves by their desires. Their entire self-image is built on what they're pursuing, so to let go of desire feels like death, like losing your identity. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's the beginning of real freedom, because if your pain is created by the will, then understanding the will is the first step toward ending that pain. And yet, understanding alone isn't enough. You can know all this and still be stuck, still restless, still chasing, still numb. So what then? We can't kill desire and can't trust it. What can we do? That's where the real consequences begin. That's where the trap reveals itself. Because this isn't just an idea. It's something shaping your life right now, quietly, constantly. In the next section, we'll uncover the ways this hidden force, the will, sabotages your peace, poisons your relationships, and creates a society addicted to distraction. You'll begin to see how deeply this sickness runs and how urgent it is to break free. But first, you need to know what it's doing to you right now, without your permission. You don't notice it at first. The will hides in plain sight. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't tell you, you're suffering because you're trapped. Instead, it says, you just haven't found the right thing yet. So you keep looking. You switch jobs, change partners, redesign your life over and over again. But the anxiety never truly goes away. The quiet dissatisfaction follows you, even into your happiest moments. Why is that? Because the pain isn't outside you. It's not your job, not your partner, not your past. It's the silent, compulsive need to always be somewhere else. The will creates this constant itch, this background noise in your mind that tells you that this moment, right now, is not enough, that you are not enough, and so you keep moving, not because you want to, but because you don't know how to stop. This is where the damage begins. Let's look at a few of the ways this hidden drive shapes your life. You sit in silence for 5 minutes and feel uncomfortable. You try to rest, but your brain pulls you toward your phone, your to-do list, or some random distraction. You tell yourself you're just bored, but it's deeper than that. You've been trained to feel uneasy without stimulation. Why? Because the will doesn't want peace. It wants pursuit. And when you try to sit still, the will screams, do something, fix something, find something. That's why many people can't meditate, can't be alone, can't stop thinking, because they haven't learned to live without chasing. What begins as a simple want, a craving, a curiosity, can grow into a trap. You think you're in control of your choices, but how many of your daily habits are really just ways to numb discomfort? How many times do you check your phone, not out of interest, but to avoid a feeling? How many things do you buy, not because you need them, but because you hope they'll change how you feel? The will hijacks your behavior and makes you confuse stimulation for relief. And here's the dangerous part. It works, temporarily. You get a rush, a hit, a tiny moment of satisfaction. Then it fades, and the craving returns. That's addiction, not just to substances, but to emotions, achievements, even people. When you live through the lens of the will, you stop seeing people as they are. You start seeing them as solutions. Can this person give me attention? Can they complete me? Can they make me feel less alone? And when they don't, you get restless again. The will turns connection into transaction. Intimacy becomes performance. Love becomes another thing to chase. And real deep human presence becomes almost impossible. Because you're not with the other person. You're with your desires about them. Look around. Every ad tells you you're missing something. Every product promises to make you whole. Every influencer shows you a life you should want. And you wonder why you're tired. We live in a culture designed to keep the will alive. To make you want more, spend more, chase more. It's not your fault you feel this way, but it is your responsibility to wake up to it. Cognitive science backs this up. The brain adapts to rewards quickly, a concept called hedonic adaptation. The more you get, the less it satisfies you. It's built in. You can't win this game, and yet the game continues. Because the system profits from your dissatisfaction. It needs you to be slightly unhappy, not miserable, just discontent enough to keep buying, scrolling, consuming. That's the real tragedy. Most people don't even know they're trapped. They just assume life is supposed to feel this way, slightly anxious, never settled, always wanting, but it's not. It doesn't have to be. Schopenhauer saw through it all. He saw how society, biology, and culture worked together to feed the will, to keep you busy, distracted, number, and he proposed something radical, a rebellion not of violence, but of stillness, of refusal, of letting go. Because once you understand the trap, you're ready to break it. But be warned, the next step isn't easy. It goes against everything you've been taught to believe. It requires courage, stillness, and a kind of strength most people never develop. But it's the only way out. You've been chasing peace, but peace isn't something you find. It's something you stop running from. This is where the rebellion begins. Not with loud declarations, not with life-changing decisions or perfect morning routines, but with a simple, radical act. Stop. Just stop. Stop chasing. Stop needing. Stop believing that your happiness is somewhere out there. That's the heart of Schopenhauer's cure. He didn't tell people to fix their lives. He told them to see through them, to realize that the game they were playing, the endless pursuit of satisfaction, was rigged from the start. And the only way to win is not to play. But what does that mean? Practically, let's make it clear. Schopenhauer believed that real peace begins when you stop feeding the will, when you stop identifying with your desires. It's not about suppressing them or pretending you don't care. It's about watching them, observing them rise and fall without acting on them. That's why he admired monks, artists, philosophers, people who lived simply, who didn't chase power, money, or approval. Because the more you silence the will, the more space you create inside. And in that space, there's calm. You ever sat in nature and felt truly still? No urge to check your phone, no thought about tomorrow. Just presence? That's a glimpse of what he meant. Not emptiness, not apathy, freedom. Here's something profound. Schopenhauer believed that art is one of the few things that can temporarily free us from the will. When you're deeply immersed in music, in a film, in a story, you forget yourself. You're not wanting. You're not striving. You're just experiencing. In those moments, you step outside of time. You forget your desires. You lose the sense of I need, and enter the world of this is. This is why we love stories, why people cry at concerts, why a painting can hold your attention longer than any motivational speech. Art lets you escape the trap, if only for a while. So the next time you feel the itch to do, consider listening instead, watching, absorbing, without needing anything to change. Schopenhauer also saw compassion, not love, not romance, but pure compassion, as a key to peace. Why? Because compassion is one of the few experiences that's not rooted in desire. It's not about gain. It's not about status. It's about stepping outside yourself, feeling someone else's pain, without needing to fix it, just being present with it. In a world obsessed with self-improvement, compassion is a quiet rebellion. It says, I don't need anything from you. I just see you. That kind of connection doesn't fuel the will. It dissolves it. And in that, you find something rare. Human truth, shared experience, unity. Here's the part most people resist. To break free from the pain of existence, you may need to want less. Not just emotionally, but practically. Live simply. Spend less. Own fewer things. Take longer walks. Talk to fewer people, but more deeply. Disconnect from the noise. Turn your attention inward. This isn't about becoming a monk or abandoning society. It's about reclaiming your attention. When you stop trying to fill every second, you begin to notice how restless you've become. And that awareness is power. It shows you just how deeply the will has shaped your life. and how strong you really are for facing it. Everyone talks about mindfulness, but most people treat it like another tool to be used for results. I meditate so I can be more productive. I journal so I can be more focused. I rest so I can work harder tomorrow. But that's still the will. It's just wearing a different face. What if you did something, not for a result, but just to exist, just to be? That's where freedom lives. And no, it's not glamorous. It won't win you awards, but it will make your mind quiet. It will make your body feel lighter. It will remind you that you are never broken, just overwhelmed. This is what it means to rebel against the will, not by fighting it, but by understanding it, watching it, letting it pass, and slowly, no longer needing to obey. That's the real cure. Not happiness, not perfection, but release. But even this isn't the deepest truth Schopenhauer revealed, because beyond this rebellion lies something more powerful, something final, a realization that changes everything, not just how you live, but how you see the world. It's time to go one step further into the heart of the storm. Here's the truth most people spend their lives avoiding. Life does not owe you happiness, not peace, not clarity, not meaning, nothing. That realization can break you, or it can set you free. For Schopenhauer, the cure wasn't found in escaping suffering. It was found in understanding it, in no longer resisting what is. All human suffering, he said, comes from the will, from this blind force inside us that wants, demands, craves. So what happens when you finally see it clearly? You stop fighting the pain. You stop chasing the feeling. You stop expecting life to fulfill you. And something strange happens. You become still, not numb, not defeated, just still. You stop needing everything to make sense. You stop needing every moment to feel good. You begin to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is more than detachment. It's not indifference, it's something deeper. It's freedom without illusion. You start to notice small things, moments you never saw before. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the quiet between your thought, the way a tree sways in the wind. None of it needs to be extraordinary. It just is, and that becomes enough. You no longer live for the next high, the next goal, the next validation. You're not driven by fear of missing out or anxiety about your place in the world. You've stepped outside the cycle. You are no longer at war with yourself. So what does this mean for your life? It means you can finally stop carrying the weight of becoming. You can stop believing that peace is a destination. You can begin living from a place of being quiet, aware, whole. This doesn't make life easy. It doesn't erase pain, but it makes suffering no longer personal. It makes discomfort something you witness, not something you are. You stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What happens if I stop resisting?" This is what Schopenhauer offered. Not a life free of pain, but a life free from illusion. The illusion that you're supposed to be happy all the time. The illusion that life has a fixed meaning. The illusion that more will finally be enough. Once those illusions fall away, you're left with something far more honest. A life where suffering doesn't control you. A mind that doesn't chase every impulse. Soul that finds peace, even in silence. And in that silence, you discover something you never expected. You're okay right now, as you are. No more needing, no more running. Just a quiet, steady awareness that you made it. You've exited the game, and you're finally free. Now pause. Don't scroll. Don't move on. Just sit for a moment with yourself, with your breath, the weight of everything you've just realized. No judgment, no expectations. Let the stillness settle in. Because if there's one thing Schopenhauer would want you to know, it's this. You don't need to fix your life to be at peace. You just need to see it clearly, honestly, without the veil of desire. And when you do, you'll understand the deepest truth of all. Freedom doesn't come from what you gain. It comes from what you no longer need. And that is the cure. Thanks for watching.